It's been great to watch Jobs to Be Done rise in popularity over the years. And today, anytime I meet somebody in a professional setting, it seems like I'm faced with the same question. How do I get better at applying jobs to be done? And how do I help my teams get better at applying the framework? And my answer is always the same. Get really, really good at conducting interviews with your customers using the jobs to be done method. We can get all caught up in how we conduct analysis, how we size opportunities, how we prioritize opportunities, but none of that really matters if we don't get the interviews right and we don't conduct interviews that uncover demand. So my answer is still the same. Get really, really good at conducting the interviews. And my recent answer to that question takes the shape of a catalog of interviews that I conduct and that I share out that you can watch to improve your own technique. I found the best way to get good at conducting interviews is watching somebody who knows what they're doing, seeing the technique, going off and conducting interviews on your own. It doesn't matter, it can be a friend or a colleague. Just talk about something that they purchased to practice the technique, and then going back and basically comparing notes, watching another interview, taking some additional input about different techniques and things like that, and repeating over and over and over again. Lots of people have learned how to do this. It's not difficult, it just takes a little bit of practice. So, my hope is that by sharing out this entire catalog of interviews that you can learn from on a variety of topics, you can use it to get better and better at conducting interviews and applying the framework yourself. This interview that you're about to watch is a real interview about a real purchase. I talked to a gentleman named Martine about buying a cold plunge tank that he uses for fitness and wellness and that sort of thing. We uncover a lot of interesting opportunities around the business model, around marketing innovation, product innovation that could take place just as a result of this one interview. So the entire interview is shared here. If you want to watch the analysis afterwards, where we talk about all of those opportunities, go visit the Substack where I have the entire catalog of interviews published. So I hope you enjoy the interview.
Hey, Chris.
How you doing?
Great, and you?
Good, good. Really good to see you.
Same.
We're going to talk about a purchase that you made, I guess, fairly recently, a couple months earlier in the year. And it was, I don't even really know what these things are called, but it's a plunge tank. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, I call it a cold plunge.
Cold plunge. Okay. So basically, you and I know each other, so we're cheating just a little bit, but the context around this is I'm doing early stage research on this category. I'm trying to figure out what is going on in people's lives that cause them to start thinking about making progress, sort of in this area of their wellness or whatever language you use to describe this, and then try to get the story out for of all the things that you could have invested in to make this sort of progress. What happens that causes you to take the plunge, so to speak? Um, so I guess the drill here. I'll ask a lot of general questions to probably set things up, and then there will be moments where I want to go really far into the details and figure out what was going on. I always use the little documentary metaphor. So if I start asking strange questions like, if you were online reading reviews, was it morning time, nighttime, you at a coffee shop, or you at home? Is it crowded? Like, just I'm trying to get into the details of the situation. And a lot of times it helps folks to think about me as somebody who's trying to film a documentary of that moment. So, like, can you remember specific things that are going on at that time that would help set the scene for that documentary to make it as realistic of a recreation of the time as possible? And a lot of times, those memories sort of trigger other details and help us fill out the story. Um, so let's dive in. That's basically all I've got. Can you help maybe just like set up the timeline for me a little bit? I know you've had it for a couple months at least. When did you buy it? When did you pull the trigger?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I pulled it. So I remember we were on a holiday. Like
Okay.
we went on a trip with my wife and my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So we were traveling at the time in Europe. And I've been thinking about the purchase quite a bit until then, but I ended up pulling the trigger when I was on that trip. I think I was up. We were in our hotel, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So am I right to assume that this is an online purchase that you
Yeah,
made?
yeah, yeah. Online purchase. Yeah, on like the website of the of the company that sells them.
Okay. And when was the trip? How long ago was it?
So I think it was in, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was end of August, beginning of September. So yeah, it was like
Okay.
a couple of weeks. So probably like end of August to like mid-September.
You were gone for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, gone for a couple of weeks. And I had
Okay.
already been thinking about it. I'm sure we'll get into it.
Hmm.
I think it was probably mostly this year that I was thinking about it, but yeah, I ended up pulling the trigger when we were on the trip.
Okay. So maybe first off, take me into that. This isn't that long ago. So like is this on your phone, on laptop, iPad? Where did you actually do the transaction?
Computer. I'm pretty sure it was my computer.
Okay.
Because we brought our computers on the trip
Hmm.
because we were gonna work a few days
Yep.
remotely at the end of the
Sure.
trip, and so we brought our computers.
Huh.
And yeah, I'm pretty sure I transacted on the computer.
Okay. And what do you remember about that period of time? Um, like wife and daughter, are they in the room? Had they gone out to leave? Like they're because this is a little bit of a purchase. So is this like I need a little bit of quiet or tell me about the moment that you actually did it if you can remember.
Yeah. That's a great question. I'm pretty sure. I mean, most of the time on that trip we were kind of together.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we were. I was on my own, or my wife was on her own, and the other one was with our daughter. If we wanted to like go to the gym, work out, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you're
But yeah,
dividing
for
and
the most part, yeah, totally, like kind
yeah.
of splitting up a little bit. But no, for the most part, we were all together, and I think probably this was like, I'm guessing evening, maybe when she would put our daughter to bed, and we were like talking and like, yeah. I think I was flirting with the idea of pulling the trigger. It's a big
Mm-hmm.
purchase, kind of expensive, and so yeah. So I think at the time the driving factors for me, um, yeah. I mean, for sure, like I did feel like a window was closing in the sense that
Mm.
summer was gonna be over. This is like and this is all about the cold, and
Oh,
it's about to get colder winter, like weather-wise.
okay.
So I'm thinking like, look, if I wanna, yeah, one of the issues here with challenges for me was like, am I gonna like this? Is this gonna be intense? Am I gonna be able to do it? Because
Yeah.
it's really cold water.
Yeah.
It's a cold water immersion tank, right? And
Yep.
so yeah, like the idea of doing it during the summer was kind of enticing to me. Just felt like it was kind of
Oh.
easing into it.
Uh-huh.
And I also had received like my cash flow has certain like patterns, let's say,
Okay.
and uh, and I had just received like the bank account was in a better shape, let's say, to make that expense at that
Yep.
point.
Yep.
So yeah, it was almost like, okay, the resources are there. Time is
Uh-huh.
running out a little bit because the window's closing. Should I do it now or not?
Yep.
Um, and yeah, I guess I said yes. I don't know.
You went in.
Yeah.
When did you learn about this? Or I guess how did you put the idea together in your head that summer would be easier? The water's cold in the winter and the summer or whatever. Like when did you start to think about it being harder in the winter?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. Like so just as a background, I had only done this before buying this thing. I had only done one similar experience in my life,
Mm-hmm.
which was more summer related.
Okay.
That was in 2019. That was like an ice bath,
Okay.
like a proper ice bath, like it was just like a container with ice and water, and you just get into it.
Yep.
And it was like one of the toughest, worst things I ever did, and it
Mm-hmm.
was really, really hard. And it was like a beautiful day out,
Ah.
sun, like not a single cloud out there. The sun was hitting me, and kind of warming me up. And even like that, it was really, really tough.
Yep.
So I don't know, maybe it was like kind of contrasting with that idea. If like, okay, like I did this before, it was super hard, and I did it in this like beautiful day. If I'm here where I live in the winter, like gets super rainy, windy,
Yep.
beyond cold, right? Besides the cold. And so maybe I was thinking like, hey, if I'm gonna do this when the weather, if it was so tough in the perfect weather, it's gonna suck in the tougher weather.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I think also when you look at the pictures, you don't feel the cold, right? You look at the pictures and it's like just people like in floating in water, right? And you
Yeah.
see that it's kind of nice. It looks kind of nice. It looks kind of like relaxing to some extent, you know, or cozy.
Uh-huh.
I think that my association in my mind is like, oh, I don't know. That looks like ambient level water, ambient temperature water. For some reason, that's like the automatic assumption in my mind when I see those pictures.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if that
What
association put me closer to doing it in summer or anything. But
what pictures are you looking at? This is like on the website that's gonna sell you this. You're saying the
yeah,
people
yeah,
look like they're just
mostly
in
website. Yeah,
normal
mostly website.
temperature. Okay.
Yeah, mostly website. But yeah, people look very calm, you know, and stoic, and they're closing their eyes and they're just like floating in the water.
Yeah.
And you look at it and it's like, oh, it's probably not so bad. But I did have that experience from that one time that really made me think that no, it really sucks.
So you've got
Um,
two. How do you figure out what reality is? Or maybe you don't need to because you've got your own personal experience and then you've got what is being shown to you. How is
yeah,
that?
I feel like that memory was so far in my mind, you know, that it
Hmm.
wasn't so fresh
Yeah.
from like a more primal perspective, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like intellectually I know that it sucks because I did it once,
Sure.
but the feeling has faded,
Hmm.
and for some reason there's a bit of like an excitement towards it, and when you look at the pictures, people seem like they're all right.
Yeah. They're okay.
Um, yeah, yeah, but to your original question of like why, how did I get come to the idea of like,
Yeah.
I think there's also this idea of this issue of like where was I gonna put it, outside or inside the home?
Okay.
And I was kind of I was leaning more towards putting it outside.
Hmm.
I wanted to put it inside just to be more shielded and to lower the friction, but I just couldn't. It was hard to like think through where to do that or if that was feasible. And so I was thinking that hey, this is probably gonna go outside.
Where was it going to go inside if you were going to put it inside?
Oh, I thought of different places, you know, like we have a room that we use like as a bit of a gym. So we
Hmm.
have like a Peloton bike there and a two people sauna. So I
Yep.
was thinking of maybe, hey, maybe we complete the setup and we put it in there.
Ah.
But I was worried like the amount of space it was gonna take, and my main concern was the amount of water that's gonna like come onto the floor.
Hmm.
And it's not even our place, we're renting it, so I was worried that we're gonna damage the floor or we're gonna have to do some kind of sophisticated thing to make sure that no water comes into the floor.
Yeah.
Um, and so and so at some point I was even considering that putting it in. We have several bathrooms, and there's one bathroom in particular that there's has a shower, but we don't use it.
Okay.
And so I was even wondering, hey, should we put it in a bathroom? Can we put it like inside of the shower
Ooh.
like area?
Uh-huh.
So that if like water comes out, it's all good, doesn't matter, and we don't lose that shower, and we don't use that shower, we don't lose a shower that we use.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just at some point I didn't. I ended up making that decision afterwards after I did the purchase.
Hmm. Oh, when
Um,
you bought it, you didn't know if it was going inside or
I
outside.
didn't know. I didn't know where it was gonna go. And
Okay.
honestly, for sure, that was something holding me back. I even emailed the guys
Okay.
that ended up buying it from to ask
Yep.
them like for some support in figuring out like where to put it, or like if they had any if they had any like suggestions for like an indoor setup, you know, that doesn't like damage floors.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think that's definitely room for improvement on their part because they wasn't very helpful what I received.
What did they say?
Um,
What did they send back?
So first, I feel like I probably messaged them. I think no, I think so. I messaged them, they replied, and they gave me some pointers or ideas, you know. But it's more like some pointers or ideas for me to explore, you know, instead of like here's a guide of how you do this,
Yeah.
and this is like how people do it, you know. And you can buy the products from us, right? Like the I don't know if you need tiles on the floor or some kind of
Oh.
protective sheath or whatever it is. So they
Yep.
gave me some pointers, just kind of can. I think it was a bit disappointing because I'm like, okay, maybe they don't have a playbook for this, and I'm like, okay, what do they do now?
Yeah.
And I think I kind of followed up with them, like, hey guys, like, help me think through this a little bit more concretely, and because
Oh, you wrote back after you
yeah,
got
yeah,
the
yeah,
first reply. Okay.
because I'm like I feel like I'm ready to buy or I want to do this, but
Uh-huh.
help me figure this out.
Yep.
I think I didn't receive a reply. I didn't even receive a reply.
Okay.
Uh, so that was a bit of a turnoff. Um, but yeah, and I left it there. Um,
Was there anything
but
in
yeah,
the first reply that was actually, I mean, it sounds like it didn't, you had expectations of either here's like all the stuff you can buy to like figure the, you said like drainage or tiles or whatever.
yeah.
It didn't meet that expectation. Was there anything in that first email that like helped you at all or gave you any insight?
Mm, I think it left me a bit worse off in the sense that it kind of validated the fact that this is a problem, like this is
Oh,
something to think through.
yeah. And they haven't solved it either.
Yeah, and they hadn't solved it either, or didn't have a
Yeah.
concrete solution.
Okay.
So yeah, so I have a sauna, right, that I use indoors, and and I've had it for several years, and I've always been pretty happy of having that indoors over having it outdoors because I just feel like using it and getting in there is so much easier, when the weather outside is kind of rough, especially
Yep.
like winter time. So I kind of had wanted to replicate the same thing with the plunge, and like that was my way of thinking about it. So
Yeah.
I really had this um yeah, I really had this yeah, I guess the desire or inclination to like see if I can put it indoors. And so when indoors didn't happen, or I started seeing that it was going to be more complex, that kind
Yeah.
of froze me a little bit. No pun intended. Uh,
This is going to be hard. The puns are just everywhere.
yeah.
Where else did you have? So you had the shower, the bath. It's to help me. It sounds like there's three. There's inside the shower. There's in the bathroom, outside the shower, and then there's the room with the Peloton and the spa. Three
Yeah.
options. Is there a fourth one that you're also considering inside, or was that
No,
the whole thing?
no, 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 no. That was the whole thing. That was the whole thing. I mean, yeah,
Is
that
my
was the
list
whole
right?
thing.
Is
Yeah.
is inside the bathroom but outside the shower actually on the list, or did I make that up?
I actually thought about that.
Okay.
But I don't know that I took it very seriously. Like I never really took measurements. It was more like kind
Ah,
of looking at pictures. It was like at that point I hadn't even decided about buying it. I was still like in
yeah.
the I think kind of wrapping my head around it.
Okay.
But yeah, I was kind of thinking hard through all the possibilities to see if
Yeah.
inside could work because outside I actually ended up putting it outside, by the way,
Yeah.
in an area that I wasn't even considering, I think, when I was thinking through this. I
Okay.
thought that the only outside spot that I could put it was going to be quite more exposed than what they ended up doing.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, when I was thinking through all of this, it was like either kind of indoors or nothing, right?
Yeah.
This is already going to be miserable to get into this cold water. If I even have to do it outside with the rain hitting my face or the
Yeah.
wind blowing, it's going to be too rough. And I mean, I already did this once in summer and it sucked. I cannot imagine, right? So that was kind of like, I guess, like many of the things coming through my mind. But yeah, those were the three areas. I don't know that I was considering super seriously, or I had done like a really meticulous like study of how this thing would fit and whether there was enough space or not.
Yeah.
Actually ended up doing more of that once I bought it,
After you bought it.
and I had to decide like, okay, where is this thing going, right? Like they're gonna ship it and deliver it soon. Like I need to
Yep.
put it somewhere.
So you were late August, early September in Europe when you made the order. When did you send the email? How is this like a day before you bought it, or is this like
No,
weeks or months?
no, that's probably I would guess probably I would venture to say maybe a couple months before.
Like springtime?
Yeah, or beginning of summer maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not sure. I have a hard time recalling what was happening exactly.
It's okay.
I can remember like different conversations, events, things that played a role.
Mm-hmm.
So happy to share that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still don't fully know like what were the sequencing of them.
Yep. All right. So
But
let's
yeah,
go back. Tell me, maybe we start to fill it out that way. So
yeah,
maybe just a quick couple seconds on what happened in
yeah,
2019 where you ended up in an ice bath. It sounds like a wonderful sunny day, but I don't
yeah,
know anything else besides that.
yeah. So for a long time, I've been part of like this personal improvement group,
Yep.
run by a guy who's an author, and he kind of so he would organize and do like these quarterly workshops on different topics, right? And kind of curating different topics that could be helpful for people, members,
Yep.
right? In terms of your mind, body, spirit. And in September, I think it was September 2019, we had one of those. It was actually with Andrew Huberman, and it
Yeah.
was here in the Bay Area.
Well, so who's Andrew Huberman? Let's just.
So Andrew Huberman is like a pretty big podcaster these days.
Yep.
He's a Stanford professor. I think neuroscience or neurobiology, ophthalmology, something like that. And he's
And
like a
he's there
really
at the.
he's at Stanford. The workshop wasn't at Stanford, was close by.
Okay.
And this was before he was like really. This was before he started the podcast. I think he was about or starting his social media account. So, but now he's really really big, and he's like and he's also really. I think he's known for many things, but cold exposure is one of them. So
Okay.
he was leading this workshop, which was a really 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 cool experience. And it was all about like the kind of controlling your nervous system
Okay.
and different ways of controlling your nervous system and different tools you can use, from like the breath to like, I think it was also like sound. I mean, the movement, different tools.
Okay.
And there was one experience that was about putting those tools into practice, which was like getting into an ice bath and being able to like stay there for a bit, even though like your body's freaking out and you're going into fight or flight. That was kind of like the idea.
Okay.
And so, and so I was in the workshop with my wife, which also plays a role in the purchase, right? Because I'm also trying to figure out like, are you like, okay, if I buy this, it's kind of expensive, it's going to be pretty big. Like, are you
Yeah.
going to use it? Like, how are you feeling? So, but back in 2019, we did the workshop together. We
She
both
did
got
the ice
into
bath too. Both of you did
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
Both of us did the ice bath. She actually did 3 minutes, which was, I think, the target that people were setting for. And I did 2 minutes. Yeah. I couldn't take it. It was really, really rough, really, really
Yep.
hard. So yeah, that was my one and only experience doing an ice bath.
Okay.
I mean, 2 minutes is still pretty decent, but I was under a lot of pain. It was super intense.
Yeah.
Um,
And just to
yeah,
set the time square, this is 19, 21, 2. This is 4 years ago. We're
yes,
recording this interview. September 2019 is 4 years prior that you had this experience.
yeah, exactly. And I was also reflecting, when was my first encounter with this idea of cold exposure and all of that?
Yeah.
And I think it was probably several years before that, even with
Okay.
Wim Hof. I
Yep.
don't know if like the Dutch guy who does all these crazy things in cold weather, right? Like I think he climbed the Kilimanjaro in his shorts or something like that, like really extreme things.
Yeah.
And he also uses like breathing patterns and breathing techniques to like be able to do that. And so a pretty unique guy. I remember hearing some podcast about him.
Yep.
I think he has I also watched like a Vice documentary. Not sure when, but I'm guessing 2016, 2017. I feel like it was around the time I moved here to the Bay Area.
Yep.
And and at some point I even did like I started doing like an online course that he had
Oh
to
yeah.
learn like the breathing techniques. And sorry, I started doing cold showers. So I was doing cold showers, and I think I've been doing cold showers for a very long time.
And the online course was like you paid for this. This is like a subscription?
Yeah, it was like a one-time thing.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was okay.
It
So
was
you
like
paid for it, you took it, and then you were done.
Yeah. I did a few classes. It was actually a friend of mine who bought it, and he kind of shared it with me to see if I wanted to check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did like a few days of it, I think.
Okay.
And it was more about the breathing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about Wim Hof, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like I think through Wim Hof, like cold kind of started becoming more popular, or like that was kind of like the first wave, at least for me. And I think the topic of cold showers also like came into the fray, and I started doing cold showers probably around those times too, like just finishing the shower with cold, maybe 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And
You
that's
still do, is
something.
that something did have you stuck with that for that's
Yeah.
6 years ago, 7 years
I
ago?
stuck with that, and I was reflecting, and maybe this is interesting. Like we moved to a new house like a year ago, or a little over like a year and a half, maybe. And this house, the cold water doesn't work, or like it's just, I mean, for the shower
Yeah.
gets cold at the beginning very slightly, and very quickly it just goes to like warm, even if at the lowest setting.
Oh, you can't take cold showers anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So I almost lost the cold showers too. I
When
mean, you
did you
can do
move?
them if you do it at the beginning. So I started doing them at the beginning because then water warms up and
Hmm.
then like it's gone. But yeah, I was pretty much doing them all the way until like we moved to this house. And also
When did
like
you move? How long ago did you move?
that was June or July 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. And but
Year
yeah,
and a
pretty
half,
much
year and a
I
half ago.
continue with the cold showers, and also when traveling, like yeah. So
What is so you did it from 2016, 2017 to 2022, moved into this house. Now the water's not cold. Did it change? It sounds like you're still doing it. You're just doing it at the beginning of your shower instead of the end of your shower. Do you still get the same like duration? It feels like you're accomplishing the same thing. It's just at
yeah,
a
yeah.
different.
It's
Okay.
still pretty similar, but it depends whether like if my wife took a shower before me, it already
Oh,
doesn't get cold at all. It's already kind of like past that
yeah.
point. Um, yeah. And since I started doing the plunge, I just don't pay as much attention to the cold showers. I'm pretty much
Sure.
not doing that. But that's more of like well, it's been like 3 months, I think, since I bought it, probably. So
How did
yeah.
you do anything about the water? I don't. It's funny, like adjusting your water heater. You can make your water hotter. How do you make your water colder? Did you look into that at all?
No, 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 I
Okay.
didn't. I didn't. I don't know why, honestly. Um, yeah, I don't know.
But you're still. It sounds like some of the time you're still getting the couple seconds of
Yeah,
cold
maybe
shower.
some of the
You're.
time I'm getting it, and it's
Yep.
also like quite uncomfortable. So maybe I wasn't that excited to like go into the basement and start like tweaking with the water heater or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And also like it's I would probably have to do it through I don't know if I would do it myself, like going in there, and tweaking it because it's a rental and I don't know, just feels like I need to talk it through with the guy who like runs the house, and
Sure.
handles maintenance. So yeah, I'm just thinking out loud, like why maybe I didn't
Yeah. Yeah. That
go
makes
for it.
sense. Um, and so tell me about, I guess, what does this habit do for you? I mean, you've been doing it for years now. You've committed to it. How does it help you? The cold showers.
It's a good question. I think at some point it became more automatic. I don't even remember like
Hmm.
what was this supposed to do? Like I just
It's
like
so
it's been
far.
so long ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I do think that it feels good in the sense that it kind of like awakens me more in the morning.
Hmm.
I shower in the mornings, like really awakens me more.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, so I'm more alert. So I think that's one of them.
Okay.
And I think and I mean maybe now I've heard it like from a few different sources, like information about like connection to data points that make it sound like it's beneficial health wise, right?
Okay.
Even though maybe I think maybe now I've been reading more about it and maybe I can come up with what are those data points. But at the time, I
Yeah.
think a general sensation that hey, this is probably good for me.
So you're feeling more alert, and then you're encountering things that are just validating. It sounds like I should just keep
Yeah,
doing this because there's a lot of people are saying there's benefits.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that makes
yeah.
sense. And then what do you remember? So we've got Wim Hof, we've
Hmm.
got the personal improvement group, you and Valgo, you both do the thing in 2019. I don't think I have the recent story of like when did this cold plunge idea start occurring to you
Yeah, yeah,
in terms
yeah.
of purchasing this thing?
Totally. And another important character I would say in this journey is like another podcaster
Okay.
that it's like she's a PhD. Her name is Rhonda Patrick, and so she's a PhD. Um, and she basically talks a lot about health and wellness, but
Okay.
from a really rigorous standpoint, always digging into the research. And I and so she has like almost like a monthly like a membership group. You can subscribe, like pay a subscription
Mm-hmm.
for different benefits, and I'm on a tier in which I'm able to join some calls that she does on a monthly basis.
Okay.
So I've done lots of calls with her, and I've been part of that group as well. And she, on the one hand, I feel like she's really trustworthy because she actually is one of the few people that doesn't run ads on her podcast.
Mm.
So it's not part of her business model. So she has less of a conflict of interest, to like push products and make money basically,
Okay.
which is really cool. And so actually through her recommendations, she was the one that recommended the Peloton for
Ah,
the benefits, and I got the Peloton originally for the high intensity interval training.
yeah.
And she talked a lot about how that's beneficial. She's also big into sauna, and
Oh,
I
I see a theme
think
here.
yeah. And she also talks. I think cold exposure is more like it's another pillar that she's talked about, but yeah, my sense is that maybe with not the same level of importance as the other ones.
Okay.
And I think over the years she started talking more and more about them,
Yep.
and she's also mentioned that her husband really likes it, the cold exposure thing.
Yep.
And she actually, and I think it was in 2020 or in 2021 that she mentioned this for the first time, and she mentioned the particular brand that I got and like how they use it basically.
Okay. This is so we're still back to 2020 or 2021. Are you still a member of this? When did
Yeah,
you
I'm still a
start
member.
listening to her and how? Okay, you're still a member
Yeah,
now. And this
still a
started.
member. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm just trying to get the
yeah, of course.
um say yeah, 2020. And um tell me about rigorous and then tell me about not rigorous. I understand the ad part, but you've got you've got the personal improvement group, you've got Wim Hof, you're investing a lot in this, and something that you've picked up on, it's like a filter where you're able to say Rhonda is the real deal and this other stuff it sounds like I'm not willing to listen to. Can you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had different. That's a great question. It makes me think. I mean, I definitely had a stage in which I was really into like bulletproof. If you know like the bulletproof diet, bulletproof coffee,
Yeah.
Dave Asprey, like
Mm.
and his company and products,
Yep.
and um, and I think maybe others as well. I think over the years, I I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think. For sure, at some point, I concluded that not everything that you hear is right.
Yeah.
That some people maybe speak with a lot of like very vehemently around
Mm.
products they sell, products they create, or information, and you never know fully like if this
Yeah.
is what's the level of rigor there,
Hmm.
and what's rigor, right? I think I really resonate with her approach, or at least her approach makes me feel safe in the
Yep.
sense that she, on the one hand, it's the lack of conflict of interest. On the other hand, it's like seeking like scientific literature, like she kind of explains what's her recommendation and what's the
Hmm.
evidence that she sees for it. And sometimes there's more or less strength for them, maybe sometimes there's
Ah.
randomized control trials. Sometimes it's more like epidemiological, when they're like looking back at like large
Yeah.
populations of people, right? And kind of like trying to reverse engineer if there's patterns around certain interventions or habits.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I'm trying to recall like how exactly I joined her group and I got in touch with her. I mean, a background for me is that I'm a founder of a podcast company, right, and a podcast player
Hmm.
product. And for sure, it's been a priority of mine to develop relationships with podcasters, especially the ones that I
Ah.
enjoy listening to, and also supporting them.
Sure.
So I think initially there was a little bit of that, kind of like building a relationship, supporting her work,
Yeah.
and
How,
also like yeah.
how deep do you go in terms of I think the citing scientific literature studies, things like that makes a lot of sense. Do you go as far as to like read up on those studies, get into the data,
No,
and dive in, or it's just
no.
enough that like she's putting out to the community, like here's what I'm referencing, and people can see the background in it.
Yeah, no, it's more like I might click on a link that she sends, or a few links, but
Yeah.
I don't go like super into the weeds and like read everything.
Okay.
But yeah, it's mostly seeing that she's doing that type of work.
Yep.
Um, and she also seems pretty sober, I guess, in her recommendations. I don't know, like I think other folks are more like out there,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like risk, I guess risk profile, or like how, yeah, how adventurous they are with the type of things they recommend. I think she again, this may be subjective, right? But I feel like she has like more, yeah, more grounded,
Mm-hmm.
less marketing, I would say.
How much how much stuff does she so I'm trying to get a feel. She recommends Peloton. You're on the Peloton doing the high intensity interval training. Sounds like the sauna. Do I have the sauna recommendation too? You got the sauna
Totally, yeah,
coming out
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Is and then the cold plunge, is this sort of like her plan, or is this like three things out of a lot of things that she's recommended and you're sort of picking and choosing to try to
No, these are three things, probably the most expensive ones though, out of things
okay.
that she recommends, because
Yeah, yeah.
she sometimes recommends like supplements or food
Ah,
or like brands that she likes.
okay.
But what's cool is that she never she says that she never gets any like
Hmm.
affiliate
Yeah. She's not getting
and so,
kickbacks from the
yeah, and sometimes she's been offered them, and she said no, like
ah.
so. But yeah, and there's always like so yeah, and these things seem like part of like her daily protocol things she does,
Okay.
which I think sometimes, I don't know, you see endorsements from folks, and you're like, is this like something you're really using, or is
Yeah,
this something they're just endorsing because they paid you and that's it, and you're just like, yeah, it's just a paid ad, right? And
sure.
in this case, it was clear that it was part of like a pretty important part of like her daily her daily protocol.
Yep.
But yeah, like I heard about the Plunge, I think in 2020 or 2021, like this particular brand, I kind of wrote it down. Um, I don't know. It definitely to me felt like the most extreme frontier for me to go, felt like the most uncomfortable one. Like working out on a bike, or like getting into
Mm-hmm.
like a warm, fuzzy, like kind of
Sauna thing.
sauna felt like less of a stretch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. So you wrote it down. And so you wrote it down and did nothing. Got the Peloton, got the sauna, and
I think
it's
in
in
my
the
mind I
back of your
said
mind.
like, this is something at some point I should do, or this is
Yeah.
like, this should be part of like my stack,
Uh-huh.
But
When did you buy this? So the Peloton came first, then the sauna. Not that these things are like connected, but do I have the
yeah,
order right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
When did the sauna land?
So it was all during COVID. Pretty sure that we got the bike. I think I'm wondering if we got them like now I don't remember. Like I'm pretty sure we got the bike on 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure if we got the sauna on 2020 as well, or if we got it on 2021.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. It was probably 2020, both things. Probably both things 2020. Yeah.
Okay. And then you've got your routine there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also we
Okay.
were in a, I don't know, the other house, maybe we were in a different house, and I don't know if that it was smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Um it was smaller, these purchases are expensive, right? And so I don't know, at some point I think maybe we felt more comfortable financially also, to like
Yeah.
financially and space wise, to like say, okay, let's buy another one of these large appliances.
Yep.
Are expensive and we need a place to put it in.
Do,
Um,
do you remember the first what was the first activity in terms of actually doing research? Because it's in the back of your head. You got the first two things. You move the house, a little bit of money, and then there's also distance between the last purchase and this, right? So I can like in terms of this improvement, the big improvement stuff. So I can start to think about it. What was the first thing that you did? Because you had written down the brand. Do you
yeah,
remember it coming up somewhere, or you asking somebody about it, or going online? You clearly you said you emailed them maybe around April. What happened before the email that got you to start looking?
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I do remember having, yeah, I mean, for sure. How did I come back to this? Right, I'm not really sure. Like if I'm listening to podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
I know I do listen to Huberman, and I know and people that I know listen to him as well.
Yeah.
I don't know
He's
if I'm
big on
hearing
this.
things about cold. I feel like the whole thing about cold kind of starting getting into more like into the zeitgeist, in the past year.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure about it, but I can share some dominoes that I do think that had an effect.
Yeah.
For sure, like so. I mean, close to when I was considering the purchase, I have a coach that I work with. I've been working with him for a long time, and he actually like I told him, hey, I'm thinking all this cold plunge thing. I'm not sure, should I do it, should I not do it, like, and he's like, oh, I have one.
Mm.
And so we start talking about it, right? I think he's the only person that I know that has it, so it was actually kind of helpful, to like, and he's like, I have it outside. I'm
Ah.
like, oh, okay. He lives in Florida though, right? So I think maybe
Ah.
a little bit better weather, but
Yeah.
he's like, I have it outside. And I'm asking him also about the cold showers. Like, is it worse than a cold shower? I really struggle with cold showers already. Like, cold showers are not comfortable. Like, he's like, no, I think cold showers are even worse than the plunge because the water is hitting you in all these irregular places, and
Oh.
in a plunge you're more like sitting still, and like kind of there's some kind of like your body's getting used to it and you're not like it's not moving around.
Okay.
But yeah, like I think that was one of those conversations that kind of like lowered my anxiety and like um yeah, I just felt more at ease or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it kind of pushed me forward in terms of like doing the purchase.
Yep.
This is probably after like I messaged these guys,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and closer to like when I actually pulled the trigger.
Okay.
I think maybe this opened me up to the idea of like, hey, having it outside is not so bad,
Okay.
like it's like doable.
Yep.
And maybe I think where I put it is one of those. The other one is like the cost anxiety. The other one is like, am I gonna be able to do this? Am I
Yeah.
gonna? Is this gonna be something that I'm gonna be able to use, or it's gonna suck so much that I'm
Did
not
you
gonna be
did
able
you
to use
talk to
it?
him about that? Did you ask him explicitly?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
am I
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
be? What did
yeah,
he say?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's when he talked about the shower and
Oh,
the
hey, that was
difference
his
between the cold
explanation. Like, if you're
shower.
doing the shower, you can do this.
Yeah, yeah. He was like, I even think the showers are worse. And I'm
Mm.
like, I'm not sure I believe that, but okay. At least at least it's an empowering belief, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Um, but
How
yeah, I guess
how how much did he put? Did he go as far as like you got to do this, or what was this? What was the
no,
nature of the
no,
conversation? Okay.
no. But I think it was yeah, it definitely wasn't like you should do this. But I think it was like it definitely wasn't like raising my anxiety of how much it sucks to get into it or how rough it is. It was like, oh, I like it. I try to do it most days. Like I have it
Ah.
outdoors. It's nice.
Yep.
He also has a sauna, so he's like, I do sauna. I do this thing too, And so I'm like, oh, okay, like this might be good. I don't know. Like I'm getting more optimistic about it, I guess, through that conversation.
Yep.
Um, and I also remember talking to some friends who also had some. I remember having this conversation. I was really thinking about this, and I remember having a conversation with a couple of friends. Like we were at a park, and he does swimming. He does like
Mm.
open water swimming.
Yeah.
And he actually, I think he had done a race. I think he had done a race or was gonna do a race. From in like in the bay.
Wow.
They do it with wetsuits. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think they do it. Yeah, no, they do it with wetsuits because I
Yep.
think you can get hypothermia like just swimming for such a long time.
Yep.
But he's like into like he doesn't have a plunge, but he's into like cold water. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's like talking, yeah, and how much he likes it. And there's another friend who like had also likes cold water, had done something at his home with like he did like a in his tub like an ice bath one time or something.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about this, and I think I think I'm bringing up the idea of like, hey, I'm considering it. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to find the courage, to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do it, but I think I'm pretty scared that it's gonna especially suck so much that I'm not gonna be able to use it. So those are definitely
What
some dominoes. Yeah,
what
sorry.
What are you imagining if that happens? There's the obvious stuff, but what's the downside? You go through all this and you hate it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I need to do something about it. Like, if they have a return policy, and
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm pretty sure that I knew that they had a return policy, but I don't know. Just on the one hand, the hassle, the hassle of like
Yeah.
returning it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Just having to coordinate all of that, and then also I think the feeling a bit like a failure, like I couldn't do it.
Mm.
Like like imagining, hey, come pick this up. I'm returning it,
Ah,
like and seeing them take the plunge into the horizon,
admitting that it didn't work out.
the defeat. Yeah, admitting the defeat.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that was yeah, so that was kind of scary, I think about like the logistics, and I think it's the logistics of where to put this thing, and
Yeah.
which to some extent they're important, the logistics, because of this concern about how tough is it gonna be to use it, right? Am I gonna use it, right?
Yeah.
Because at the
It's
end
all
of the day,
connected.
like, yeah, because I'm leaning. I want to put it indoors just to make it easier for myself, right? Increase the odds that like I'm not gonna be, yeah, not using it or
What? So tell me about the upside. Um, we've got a lot, and we'll probably go back to
yeah.
the downside, right? Like the your words around the truck pulling up and them putting it on and taking it away, and that feeling and the conversation with the people, like I couldn't pull it off. You got to take this thing away. Is clearly something you're picturing. What are you picturing if it works out? Like,
Yeah, that's a great question because I don't know that. I mean, I definitely remember Rhonda, talking about it. I
yeah,
think I learned more about it through Rhonda than from Huberman before I bought it. Then I started listening to some Huberman podcasts on the topic.
yep,
Um, oh, I'm gonna share another. There's another thought that I had just came in, but
yeah, yeah,
yeah, but I think on the one hand, I had already kind of accepted, or embraced this idea that hey, cold water immersion is probably healthy, it's probably beneficial. It sounds like a powerful intervention. Maybe I didn't
okay,
have enough like the clear data points in my mind, to be able to like distill them.
okay,
But I think I had heard enough and from different sources to believe that hey, this is probably like if I want to push my health in a next level, kind of reach a new frontier,
yeah,
this is probably like a good idea. Um, and I think, I mean, for sure, I know a lot more now, but I had heard some idea, like some. I think what I had in my mind at the time was like recovery, like kind
ah,
of recovering from I don't know from workouts or pain or inflammation, whatever it is, and then psychological benefits. I think psychological benefits was a big one. I had heard a lot about from Rhonda about that and how really quickly how you don't need a huge amount of time to really
yeah,
get a big boost like in terms of like chemicals in
yep,
in the brain. And so yeah, and from Rhonda it just sounded that it was a really integral piece of like her day to day or maybe her and her husband like in their family. And it just felt like hey, this if I tend to be like someone who's like thinking about okay, what's next? What's next for me? Well, how do I kick things up a notch and that sort of thing, in different
yeah,
domains. And I like to like tweak and upgrade and improve. And I think health wise, this was one of the. It just felt like something that is probably lots of benefits, very small amount of time, which is actually good in
ah,
terms of like making it fit with my life.
yeah.
Um, and So yeah, so I guess I think I'm thinking through those.
When was the last time you took a leap? The leap is not the right word, but you said it's like a level up. When was the
Yeah.
last level up that was like pronounced in the same way that this would be pronounced?
That's a good question. I mean, for sure, the bike and the sauna
Yeah.
were some of those. You're thinking like in the health fitness domain or
Yeah.
more general? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, so when we moved houses, we all of a sudden had a more like a larger space for like working out and that sort of thing,
Yep.
which is this room I was referring to. And
Ah.
in this room, and we had bought like one of those adjustable weights,
Yep.
and during COVID, and we had them in the prior house.
Mm-hmm.
But it was hard to use them because they were kind of hidden, stashed away, and it was kind of hard
Yeah.
to like get them and retrieve them and all that. And so we actually started getting more into strength training also this past year.
Cool.
Um, yeah, using Peloton and these dumbbells.
Yep.
And and I think I'm not sure like the timing for sure. For sure before the plunge, and someone probably this year we got like a stand, like a stand for the dumbbells.
Yep.
So which also makes them easier to retrieve and I don't know, just more
You could
accessible.
switch and yeah.
Yeah, before they were on the floor, so you had to lean down, and I don't know, just wasn't as comfortable.
Yep.
So I think that was also kind of an upgrade. And this is the thing I was remembering before. I also got into like David Goggins. I
Yep.
don't know if you're familiar with him, like the crazy former Navy SEAL who does like the ultra marathons. It's super intense, very inspiring guy.
Yeah.
And I read his books earlier this year, like in February.
Okay.
I remember because I was on a trip also, and I started reading his books. Um, and he does talk about lots of things, but he does talk in SEAL training, right? They talk about the being, I think it's like Hell Week, and they're like frozen in like in the ocean for hours. I don't know, like really really long periods of time. It sounds like it's miserable.
Yeah.
So, but I think I was really inspired by his books, and I remember that I was doing like 20-minute bike rides, and
Yep.
after I came back home, I started doing 30-minute bike rides. I was like, if this guy can do like 100 miles in a day or something, I can do like 30 minutes of the bike. So I kind of stepped it up.
Push it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I'm trying to this is all really good. I think the thing that is still missing to me is maybe right around that moment. So I'm kind of playing devil's advocate with myself in terms of the
Yeah.
story. Like the everything seems to make sense. It's like I think you've got this great pattern of I want to keep leveling up. I get the Peloton, it levels. I get the spot, levels up. New house, I can access the weight, that levels up. What's next? Okay, let's figure out the plunge.
Yeah.
Um, I still the place in when you're in Europe in the hotel actually pushing the buy button. I think you've illuminated the idea that summer's coming to an end. I want to be able to start this while I still maybe have some warmth outside and I can ease my way into it. I think that makes sense. Um, is there anything else in terms of why, you're in a hotel, you're in a different country, there's so much other stuff to do. You're online shopping for this thing. Do you remember anything else about what tipped you over in that moment? Sort of the build up
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to. So there's two things, right? Like one's like around the purchase and like why then, why on the trip and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there was any like discounts or. I
Where
mean,
did let me
by
ask
the
about
way, sorry.
Val. Oh, I'm sorry. Uh,
Yeah, no.
did you have conversations with her on the trip or leading up to the trip?
Oh
How does
yeah, I
she
was
fold
having
into this?
frequent conversations with her.
Okay.
I was trying to, I think, to get her to like say, "Hey, I'm gonna use it too,"
Ah,
and to get her blessing,
yeah.
um, space wise and money wise, right? And
Ah,
I was getting, I think, a bit timid responses in the sense that I think she didn't want to commit because she doesn't like cold and cold
yeah.
water. She
Yeah.
really is like, even though I think she has a higher pain threshold than me, like she just doesn't like being cold. So I think it's kind of like her kryptonite to some extent.
Yep.
So she wasn't saying like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use it, let's get it, and like totally. Um, she's also not saying like do not get it, it's like outrageous or whatever, but she's like, yeah, she's not super like engaged, I guess, in the conversation. I think at some point I even told her like, hey, you're not, I'm not sensing a lot of engagement, in this discussion.
And you're hoping she tips you over. Like the second she says, like, "Oh, let's do this every day. It'll be great." You're ready to click buy.
Yeah, totally, yeah, totally, but she's not saying that, and she never said it, honestly. I think at some
Hmm.
point I was just like, are you okay if I buy it, like,
Yeah.
are you
It's
are
an
you right with
investment.
this,
So
or
like,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think she said something to the point of like, hey, yeah, I think it's investing in health, and investing in health is a good idea. We had also read a book together also this year
Hmm.
called what was it called? Oh shit, I'm not remembering the name, but it's something about not deferring your life, you know, and living
Mm.
like kind of especially it's called Die with Zero. It was recommended by
Oh,
a
I've heard of
friend.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all about how we tend to like over index around saving. But like
Hmm.
funny enough, it's kind of contrarian, right? Like because I think lots of people don't have any savings at all, right? But some people who are lucky enough to be able to save kind of postpone and defer
Yeah.
instead of like doing things in the moment or in the
Ah.
present.
Yep.
And he does talk a lot about how health and energy declines with age,
Yep.
and how maybe things that you can opportunities that you can take advantage of right now, um, you're deciding to postpone them when you're retired or later in life, and you're
Yeah.
not gonna be in the same shape or like energy wise or interest wise or whatever.
Ah.
So it's
Yeah.
better to like just spend the money or some money right now and just do that because now's the time. And he did speak quite a bit about health and more like investing in health because that kind of improves your how you age and
Hmm.
therefore how you're able to take up or enjoy life later on.
Yep.
And so I think we're also reflecting a little bit about that, maybe, you know, like yeah, just investing in health, right? And
Sure.
preventing, and this felt like one more thing around that theme.
Yep.
And one data point that for sure had something to do with it is I have a really good friend also lives in the area
Hmm.
who got really into strength training like in the past couple of years,
Yeah.
and he lost a lot of weight. He got ripped. He's in really good shape, you know. He's looking great, and he actually bought he created like a really amazing like home gym, you know,
Mm.
with like
Hmm.
really next level stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I saw him go through that journey. And when we were into college together, and we used to work out together in college,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. I think I could have been inspired by that, you know. Also
Yep.
seeing like, hey, this guy's like taking it up to like many degrees up, um, and that's his thing, you know. Like the more like a strength training. Like I wasn't necessarily like excited about doing that same thing, but I think the pattern of like, okay, what's your hobby? You know, what's your thing that you
Yeah.
enjoy, and what's your way of doing it, and maybe going for it, you know. So I think that also was an
It's like it's okay
inspiration.
to invest in what your hobby is and what you're interested in, and
Yeah, totally. And I think it's cool that I was thinking like it's cool that my hobby has to do with like something that improves my health. That's
sure.
kind of neat. But yeah, I'm not sure if that played a role in like pulling the trigger
Hmm.
during the holidays. But for sure, I was thinking like also like it's not only about the summer ending, but it's also about the lead time, you know, in which this thing is built and shipped.
Yeah.
So you kind of need to like also add in more weeks. So I think at some point, maybe a few times already, I was kind of logging in, you know, and trying to see like, hey, if I bought
Hmm.
it now, when would it arrive, you know?
Yeah. Doing the math.
Yeah, no, you know, actually, you can see it, right? You can see it like I think they tell you
Oh, they
like,
do the
hey,
math for it.
ships,
Yeah.
yeah, or
Yep.
ships in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or estimated delivery date, blah blah. And so I was looking through that, and I think I had already done that before.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I don't know if like in during the holiday I saw that, and I'm like, but yeah, I don't know what I'm
Wow.
thinking during the holidays about these things. But I'm
Yeah.
guessing I probably have more space and more time than without work, you know, to like,
Yep.
yeah.
So take me back. What else can you remember about the hotel room that day? You said you thought it might have been when was going to bed.
Yeah.
Can you is there anything else you can remember about that period? I'm going for the documentary moment.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were like kind of laying in bed, the two of us,
Hmm.
computer in the middle, and I'm
Yeah.
saying like, hey, like,
Oh, you're showing it. Are you showing it to Val?
yeah, I think so. I think so. Like, but probably like kind of expressing more intently that I want to do this, you know, or I think
Hmm.
it's a good idea, and like kind of seeing if she's, I don't know, she gives me her blessing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know if I recall much more than that. I honestly think it was kind of pretty quick. like
Just
almost
like,
like,
yeah,
yeah, I think I had already done all the homework that I had to do. I think I
yeah.
had already gone through the website many times, read testimonials, watched videos.
So
Just,
it's
I
like
don't
it's
know.
like lead time. Were there models or options? We haven't really talked about what are you picking from? And I guess
Yeah,
even
yeah.
competitors. Like, had you looked at
Well, that's
other
interesting.
companies?
Competitors, I didn't like at some point, I think I did like a search or something,
Yeah.
because maybe I didn't remember the name of these guys or whatever. And then I saw that like, hey, dude, like there's actually a huge amount. And I started like getting bombarded with ads like everywhere I
Ah,
went.
yeah.
I think there's one called Rennie. Uh, some look really nice, but honestly, I didn't look much into them.
Okay.
Um, I mean, at some point, I did look at others just because I was a bit worried about the price of this one. It
Yeah.
felt a bit expensive, and I'm
How much
like,
was
is there
this? You haven't
something
told me.
cheaper?
Yeah.
It's like 5K, so it's pretty
Okay.
expensive.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of money.
Um, and so yeah, I was like looking at others, but again, I didn't look much. This was endorsed by this was the one that Ronda had.
Yeah.
My understanding was that Huberman also had that one because I think he's featured somewhere, and I think he has there's a video or a picture or something.
Yep.
And at some point later on, I think I hear from my coach that that's the one he has, and I'm
Oh, okay.
like, and there's some I saw others in my brief research that were more expensive even, so those are
Mm.
out. I'm like, there's no way I'm spending more than this.
Yeah.
And
And
then
what
I
about the
saw others that were
cheaper?
cheaper,
Yeah.
but I'm like, are these any good? I have so many like references about this other one, you
What's
know?
good? What's good? Because I don't even.
Yeah,
It
that's a good
keeps the.
point. I don't know. Like at the time, I was thinking, I was thinking, what I don't know, right? Like just making
Yeah.
sure that like whatever is important here, like I don't know, these folks are. She does all the research. She's hardcore about
Mm.
the science. This works for her.
Yeah.
It's gonna work for me, right? That's kind of my thinking
Yep.
generally.
Yep.
Then I'm probably thinking like, does it get cold enough? Is it
Mm.
easy? I don't know, to install, maintain? Is it good quality? Is it reliable? That sort of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, very high level. I think I never went into the weeds.
Okay.
And these guys do have like the multiple models. I
Yeah.
mean, there's I think there's a size element, like this is a smaller and larger,
Okay.
and then there's and that was a bit of an issue too, right? Should I get the larger one? I'm a bit on the like taller side. So I'm like, should I get the larger one? Should I get the smaller one? What should I do? I ended up getting the smaller one.
Ooh. Okay.
Um,
How did you work through that?
I think at some point they show you like models, like folks in it, and they tell
Mm-hmm.
you how tall they are. And I
Okay.
think I saw one in the smaller one that was a tall dude, you know, and felt like he was fitting in well. And I think at some point I also realized, but this might have been later on, maybe after buying it, that the yeah, no, this is later on. But yeah, it's pretty much like there's some configurations that were kind of confusing. That like size was one of them. Um, I mean, there's a commercial and residential version. I got the residential, of course, and
Okay.
then there's like I think you can get like a pro like a pro versus normal, I think, which is
Okay.
basically just comes with a more powerful like chilling unit,
Uh-huh.
which chills it faster.
Did you get the pro?
And yeah, I was also confused. So should I get the pro version? Like, should might as well go for it. I ended up getting the normal one. And then there's also one that like a heated version,
Ah.
but it's not for a hot tub. It's I think it's for very cold climates in which things get freeze. You need something that can
Oh, it can
generate
like
some heat so it
survive
doesn't freeze.
outside.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
totally. But yeah, it was a bit like I don't know if there were some like questions there, you know. I
Hmm.
wanted, I felt like I wanted to get it right, and it was a bit like nerve wracking.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you email or talk? They have chat or
no,
phone or
no.
once
My
that once
only
that first
message
interaction
with
was gone?
them was for
Yeah.
like the where to put it, you know, where to put it, and the indoors outdoors, and then it was more like looking through their website, and I think with the website and reading some stuff. And maybe I asked my coach also like which one he had at some
Mm-hmm.
point because I did talk to him before I pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
So maybe he yeah.
After
And
that email
yeah.
interaction, you never thought about, did you reach out to any of the other companies? Like maybe somebody else can help me with like the tiles or because you got a kind of a negative experience, but it doesn't sound like you
I mean, yeah. I think the endorsement from Rhonda there,
yeah,
it was just
that was
like
it.
that was too strong, you know? I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I wanna And also just this idea of like I'm gonna have to. I think what I wanted to hear from them ideally was like, hey, don't worry, like you're gonna be splashing too much water inside. Put it indoors. It's all
Oh,
good, that sort of thing.
yeah.
Because the alternative of like, hey, no, actually you should think about this, and it's all convoluted. It's also a bit of a pain in the butt because it's not my place. I'm worried
Yeah.
about if I'm gonna do something to damage it, and then I'm also worried how much effort and time and money it's gonna take to like set this whole thing up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So I want to, I guess I want to round out the story with just the experience.
yeah,
So you click buy. How long does it take? And then you come home from Europe. How long does it take to
yeah.
actually get there?
I think it came in probably like a month afterwards, or maybe 6 weeks afterwards, something like that.
Okay.
And it came during a heat wave, which was great.
Yeah. How long did it? And you said you ended up putting it outside right away.
I ended up putting it outside right away. Yeah, I think at some point I figured out a better location to put it than
Yeah.
what I originally thought outside. I don't remember when I realized that. I do remember that we at some point we took some measurements with Vale, like of like, hey, how big this thing is, and we started like going outside and we did take some measurements to get a sense of like,
Before it showed up.
yeah, before it showed up, but after we bought it,
Okay.
once we came back from the trip. But yeah, basically, I was able. I ended up finding like a carport. Like we have a carport where we
Yeah.
park the car, and it's like has a roof. So I was able to put it below there, which it's close to where the roof ends, but it's sufficiently sheltered, so it's not like so savage.
Yep.
Uh,
Amazing.
so we ended up doing that.
Yep.
But yeah, it's delivered through FedEx. So the guys come in and they put it in. They don't install it, but they do kind of deploy it where you want
Oh, they
it.
positioned it where you, okay.
Yeah, they position it totally. And but yeah, the setup looked fairly easy when I saw the instructions, and then when I did it, it was also fairly easy.
Yep.
Um, it was a lot more. I mean, a lot more noisy, lot noisier, more noisy than I thought.
Hmm.
A lot more. That was a surprise.
When you're using it
Um,
or all the time or
all the time because it's always on.
it's keeping the water cold.
Yeah, it's keeping the water like circulating and keeping it cool. And so there's always like it's almost like an engine, type of
Yeah.
noise. It's
Yep.
pretty noisy. That one was surprising. I was very grateful that I didn't put it inside because
Oh.
sometimes depending where you're at inside, you can hear outside. Like
Oh, it's like always running. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. It's not huge because the doors are closed and everything, but you can still hear it. And
Yep.
so yeah, yeah. So
How long did it take you to set up? Is it so? I guess again, like one day, drop it, put it there, fill it with water. I'm plunging in an hour, or is this like a multiple day thing?
probably like a 2-day thing because first the chilling unit you're not supposed to touch it. You're supposed to leave it like sitting, without installing anything because I
Okay.
think there's some kind of chemical or gas inside of it that needs to like stabilize or settle.
Yep.
So I think you have like 4 hours there or 5 hours that you're not supposed to do anything.
Okay.
um and then you find that you're able to plug everything in and like fill it in, which is fairly fast, but until that water, which is at room temperature, right, from the faucet,
Yeah.
cools down to the temperature, maybe it's like 12 hours or 14
Yeah.
hours because it's like a degree per hour or something like that. I don't know. So it did take. So I was able to do it the following day probably.
Yep.
Um,
How did you choose the first temperature?
oh, how did I choose the first temperature? That's a great question. I don't know if it was my coach telling me the one that he was using. Um,
Do you remember what it was?
I think it was in the 50s.
Okay.
I knew that it went down to 39. And I think I know my thermostat, like in the 60s. It's kind of
Yeah.
comfortable,
Yeah.
especially like upper 60s. So I'm thinking
Yeah.
like this needs to
Probably
be
to
like
50.
in the 50s.
Okay.
40s
Oh, it's
already
got
is
to be
gonna
cold
be.
enough for it to like count, like the first.
Yeah. I think so. And I feel like at some point I heard some research about like in the 50s you're already getting benefit,
Yep.
maybe mid to low 50s.
And then tell me
Uh,
about the first time using it. Morning, evening. Is Val there with
it
you
was
to
day. It
get?
was daytime, afternoon, probably like a 5 p.m., 6 p.m. thing. It
Yep.
was still like longer days.
Uh-huh.
Heat wave situation, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
you said it was actually like was it hot?
it was super hot. It was like kind of suffocating hot, which was great.
Oh, so
Uh,
you're like, this is perfect. This is what I was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anticipating.
And I
Okay.
think if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like, my daughter was playing outside with her nanny, and there was like another nanny with a friend of my daughter, and they were playing outside like in our yard, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I was kind of excited to do it, you know, because at this point I was also like I had forgotten a little bit the really rough experience from the Huberman ice
Now
bath.
there's more excitement about the new thing.
Yeah, totally. So I get in and so yeah, I went in, I think, and I think maybe Vale went in as well afterwards, or we kind of did it together.
Yeah.
It was really rough. What can I tell you? It kind of sucked.
Really?
I mean, it sucked in the moment. I think I was able to do 3 minutes. I think I was able
Whoa.
to do it. And then I came out, and I mean, it feels really good when you come out. I think
So
it's
is this like instant regret? Like, why did I do this? I hate this. Or is it
no.
validation? Like, like this is the feeling that I wanted. And now it's like
I
the
think it's a bit
next.
mixed feelings in the sense that
Okay.
okay, this was tough.
Yeah.
I feel good. I was able to do it, which is great.
Yeah.
Um, am I gonna be able to sustain this? Like, I don't know that part because it did feel challenging.
Yeah.
And I do remember the first few times I had this feeling of like intense pain, almost like I'm about to start crying. That sort of
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
So it was kind of tough. Um, but I think after a week or so, kind of started like getting used to it a bit more. Like it's still really uncomfortable, but I know I can do it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but no, I didn't get instant regret or anything. No, I think it was more positive than negative.
What was the conversation? Do you remember the conversation between the two of you? Like you did it, she did it. What are you talking about? Like during that, afterwards, like what's the anything you can remember?
Oh, I don't know. Probably like, whoa, this is intense, something like that, you know.
Just talking about how cold, like
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, it's really hard to talk. Like especially the first 30 seconds to like 45 seconds, you're like it takes your breath away, and you're like kind
yeah.
of just trying not to get out of the because you
Ah,
automatically your body's freaking out and you want to get out,
just
and so
jump. Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of really even hard to like if someone's talking to you, like I really find it very difficult to like even respond or engage.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I think there was like the sense of excitement and novelty, of like plus it was really warm outside, so it was a more
It was
easier, I
easier
guess,
to
smoother
yeah.
setup. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What haven't I kind of want to just do like the wrap up question. What haven't I touched? Maybe one thing that I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Did the company themselves do anything to sell this to you? I've heard like the bad email exchange. I, what I haven't heard yet is like any, hey, there's a discount, there's free shipping, like you should pull the trigger. Did they participate in this
It's a
purchase
great
just
question.
beyond
I don't
the
know.
fulfillment of the
I don't know that there was much of that. I mean, there were, yeah, I don't know. No,
clearly
I don't think
Rhonda, your
so.
coach, Huberman. I mean, there's a lot of people selling this thing to you, not selling, right? But
Yeah,
like
yeah, participating. Yeah.
participating. I don't really hear the manufacturers or company that sells this as having any role.
No, because I don't think that I signed up for anything with them. I mean, maybe I
Mm-hmm.
signed up at some point. They said that they had some protocols. I think once were developed by Huberman.
Oh,
And you had to like leave your email. So I think I did that also because I think in the research phase, trying to understand like what am I getting into. I think they
yeah.
have even some guided videos, almost like a Peloton workout, but for the plunge, like
Ah, cool.
you like the 3 minute thing and someone's guiding you through it. Um,
But that doesn't, it feels like that comes in and out. You're not looking at that going, ooh,
yeah,
if I get that, then I'm definitely pulling the
no,
trigger today. You're,
no. And I never like, I don't remember like getting messaged, with
mm-hmm.
anything that was helpful or like just
Okay.
push me along, to pull the trigger and buy.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, but I did find myself over those months of research or considering it, kind of going into the website, and kind of, I don't know, sometimes getting into the testimonials or seeing like some social media posts of folks who are on there using it, and kind of trying to see like if they're suffering too much or like how they're doing, what's their experience.
It's still like more
Yeah.
social other people though. It's not like the actual folks that are
No,
trying
no,
to
no, no.
sell this to. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I think you could tell I had a lot of fun getting Martin to uncover all those details and sort of remember all the decisions that he made and conversations and thoughts as he shopped and sort of pondered the purchase of the cold plunge. We actually have an interesting situation here because Martin is a product person, an entrepreneur. He actually applies jobs to be done at his own company. I actually conduct the debrief of the interview with Martin, and we talk in depth about everything that we uncovered along the way. So if you want to watch the debrief and everything that we stumbled upon, head over to the Substack and watch that next video.